A child lies in bed, staring at the ceiling. The room is dark, but not frightening. Somewhere, just out of sight, a presence is imagined, invisible, gentle. Watching an angel, we grow up with this image. Angels as light. White robes drifting through clouds. Soft wings that never make a sound. Faces calm and kind, bending toward us like parents who never sleep. They appear in paintings hung in old churches, in prayers whispered before bed, in stories told when the world feels unsafe. Messengers of peace. Guardians of the good, we are told they protect us, that they guide us when we are lost, that they stand between us and harm, and we are told something else too quietly, but firmly. That angels belong to heaven, that they always have, but the oldest stories do not agree. If we step backward in time, past the paintings, past the prayers, past the soft glow, the angel begins to change in the earliest scriptures. Angels do not shine. They do not smile. They do not offer comfort. They arrive suddenly, unannounced. And when they do, people do not feel peace. They feel terror. Men fall to the ground, faces pressed into dust. Voices fail. Bodies shake. These beings speak, but their voices are not gentle. They sound like wind tearing through stone, like thunder rolling across a clear sky. And almost every time they appear, they say the same words. Do not be afraid, not because there is nothing to fear, but because there is. That phrase repeated again and again should make us stop. Because no one says, do not be afraid unless fear has already filled the air. Fear does not come from beauty. It comes from power. Long before angels were softened into symbols of hope, humans believed in beings that stood at the edges of existence. Not gods, not humans. Something in between. In ancient Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, people spoke of the Apkallu. Ancient spirits, said to be born before humanity fully understood itself. They guarded sacred knowledge, the rules of the universe, the patterns of stars, the secrets of civilization. They were not human. They were not divine. They were something older. Their job was not to protect people. It was to preserve order. In Egypt, the journey after death was not guided by kindness. It was judged. Their beings connected to Mat, the law of balance, stood beside the scales of the dead. A heart was weighed against a feather. If it was too heavy with wrongdoing, the soul did not move on. No comfort. No mercy. Only truth. These beings did not ask how you felt. They measured what you were. In ancient Greece, there were the daemons. Not demons in the modern sense, but invisible forces woven into daily life. They guided fate. They nudged events forward. Sometimes they helped. Sometimes they destroyed. They did not care if humans understood them. They were not good. They were not evil. They simply were. Across continents and centuries, the same idea appears again and again. Beings who watch. Beings who witness. Beings who enforce rules written into the fabric of the world. Not angels as protectors, but angels as watchers. And watchers do not interfere out of kindness. They intervene when balance is broken. Some stories go further, in ancient Jewish texts, hidden just beyond the pages most people read. There is the story of the Watchers. These were beings sent to observe humanity, to remain distant, to never cross the line. But they did. They looked down at human life, at desire, at creativity, at freedom, and they wanted it. They descended to earth. They took human partners. They taught forbidden knowledge, how to shape metal into weapons, how to read signs in the sky, how to bend nature to human will. From these unions came giants, creatures too large, too violent, too hungry for the world they walked upon. The balance was shattered. These beings did not fall because they were evil. They fell because they interfered, because they forgot their role, and the punishment was not gentle. They were bound, buried, removed from the world they had changed forever. These were not creatures of light. They were beings of consequence. Over time, these older stories became dangerous, too heavy, too frightening. As religions grew, angels were reshaped. Their many faces became one. Their burning forms became wings. Their judgment became guidance. Fear was softened into comfort because humans needed hope more than truth. But something of the old echo remained. Even today, angels appear in stories at moments of change. At births, at deaths, at endings and beginnings. They stand at doors, at crossroads, at the thin line between what was and what will be. Maybe angels were never meant to save us. Maybe they were meant to see us, to witness humanity as it learns, fails, and tries again. To remember what we forget. To stand still while civilizations rise and crumble into dust. Before angels had wings. Before heaven gave them halos. They were not symbols of peace. They were reminders that the universe is watching. That actions echo longer than lifetimes. That balance is fragile, and perhaps that is why. Even now, when we imagine an angel nearby, there is comfort, but also a strange unease. Because deep down, we remember. The oldest echoes never truly fade. Not the world we know now. Loud, fast, certain of itself, but an older one. A world where every morning felt uncertain. Where the sun rising was not guaranteed. Where the river flooding meant survival. Or death. To ancient people, the universe was delicate. Like a clay bowl that could crack at any moment. The sun had to rise. The seasons had to return. The dead had to stay dead if any of these rules broke. Everything broke, and so humans believed the world needed watchers, not caretakers, not comforters. Guardians of balance, angels were not sent to make humans feel safe. They were there to make sure the universe stayed intact. They stood at the edges of reality where life blurred into death, where order leaned dangerously close to chaos, where heaven brushed against earth. They were boundaries made flesh in these early beliefs. Angels enforced rules older than memory, rules that even gods respected, rules that could not bend for love, fear, or mercy. That is why their forms were so strange. Wings were never about flying through clouds. They were about speed, judgment arriving without warning, consequences moving faster than thought. Some angels had 4 faces, one looking forward, one back, one left, one right. Nothing escaped their sight. No direction was unseen. Others were covered in eyes. Eyes that never blinked. Eyes that watched even when humans believed they were alone. Some were described as wheels of fire, spinning endlessly, burning without rest. Always awake, always present. These beings were not meant to be beautiful. They were meant to be overwhelming. Their shapes carried a message that did not need words. You are not in control. To ancient humans, this was not cruelty. It was truth. They believed the universe watched everything, that nothing was truly hidden. That actions echoed far beyond a single lifetime. If you broke a rule, it did not disappear. It rippled outward into your family, your land, your future. Angels were the memory of those ripples. They recorded what humans tried to forget. They stood as reminders that the world was listening. But humans change. As centuries passed, fear became heavy, too heavy to carry every day. Religions softened their stories. They reshaped their watchers. Judgment slowly turned into guidance. Warning became protection. The being who once stood at the gate became someone who walked beside. You, the watcher, became the guardian, and angels learned to smile. They gained gentle faces, soft wings, names that felt warm instead of sharp. We wanted them that way because living under constant watch is exhausting. Because being seen all the time leaves no place to hide, but the old meaning never truly disappeared, even now. Angels arrive at moments that feel thin. Moments when the world seems to hold its breath. They appear at deaths, at endings, at thresholds where something is about to change forever. Hospitals, gravesides, quiet. Rooms where a final decision is made. We place angels there instinctively, even if we do not know why. Because deep down, we still understand their old role. They are witnesses. They stand still while everything else moves. They watch civilizations rise, flourish, and collapse into dust. They see the patterns humans repeat: war, hope, fear, love. They remember what we forget. Maybe angels were never meant to save us from consequences. Maybe they were meant to make sure consequences were remembered. They carry the weight of human choices across time. They stand where history bends. They watch as the same mistakes are made again, wearing new names. Before heaven had wings, angels were not symbols of hope. They were symbols of responsibility. They reminded humans that freedom came with cost. That power demanded care. That the universe was not empty or blind. And perhaps that truth was too. Heavy to keep, so we softened them. We wrapped them in light. We placed them far above us, where they could no longer judge our daily lives. We turned watchers into protectors, and protectors into decorations. Because it is easier to believe someone is guarding you than to believe someone is watching you. Because protection asks nothing. But being seen asks everything. It asks honesty. It asks accountability. It asks us to face who we are when no one is supposed to be looking. And that may be the most frightening idea of all. Not judgment, not punishment, but visibility. The idea that nothing we do disappears. That our choices leave marks. That someone, something remembers. Maybe angels never left that role behind. Maybe they never stopped watching. Maybe they simply learned to look like light. So we would stop being afraid of the dark. And if that is true, then the real question is not whether angels exist. It is whether we are ready to be seen. Because some truths do not chase us. They wait, quietly, patiently, just beyond the edge of what we believe.